Hello, everyone, beautiful people of the world. Welcome to Conscious Conversion, your sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly podcast about how we bridge the gap between business and spirit, money and meaning, technology and regeneration in a wildly changing world. In a time of so much polarity and uncertainty, this podcast explores how together we are connecting across the planet, across our differences, and across dimensions as we build the new earth together. I am your host, Sarah Yamtich, and I am thrilled to introduce y'all to my new best friend, Janet Elaine Schmidt. She's the creator of Reprogram Yourself and Business Team for Success. And for a decade, she has been a practical yet potent quantum consciousness accelerator, integrative holistic healing facilitator, and business coach. Y'all, before I hit record, she already started to drop so many beautiful truth bombs that I had to shut her up so that we could start the recording because it was getting really cool. She's got a wide array of certifications, including but not limited to Neuro-Linguistic Programming, hypnotherapy, eye movement integration, advanced PSYCH-K, and advanced theta healing. And even more importantly, Janet discovered by using 4 techniques, one could change one's belief system and reprogram themselves for the success they desire in any area of their life. In other words, she can bring a client into a whole brain state on a new belief. And she's got a 95% success rate among her clients. So this whole thing enables business teams and individuals to identify and remove energetic blocks or ailments caused by inherited imprints held in the subconscious for generations. She teaches you how to recognize your program, imprints, blocks, or ailments, and provides tools to discard what no longer serves you to have healthy, prosperous, and wealthy life. Thank you so much, Janet, for being here. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you too. And thank you for having me.
So I want to give you an opportunity to give me an even more sort of like juicy introduction of yourself than your bio. Your bio is awesome, but I'm going to ask you this like opening portal question, and you are welcome to answer it however you will. Sometimes I get pushback, and people are like, "I don't like that question." Some people, really get activated by it and have really profound things. Some people have like basically a rehearsed script that they read off. So whatever you've got for me. My opening portal question is, in this incarnation right now, in this moment, in the space-time continuum, what is your soul's purpose?
To raise the consciousness of each individual I meet. And this means that wherever they are, I meet them wherever they are and raise their frequency. And that's my soul mission. I am in essence a light worker, a light bearer, but more than that, it's my mission is to literally elevate each person. And through even the program that I have, it continues to elevate the person through a level of consciousness that they weren't in before. I a lot of times, especially if somebody's dating, I say, stop dating until you're done working with me, because the person that you would have attracted when we first started is not the person that you're going to attract in the end. And so it's that, and it's also helping everyone understand that we're all in the same, what we do to one, we do to another. So we are in essence each other. And that's also a level of consciousness in its own right. And that's pretty heavy for saying, but it's true.
Well, I mean, absolutely. For the outer world is a reflection of our inner world, right? Like every single encounter we have is somehow a reflection of an archetype we have internally. At least that's my experience, especially if I'm on some plant medicines. But yeah, I love that mission, and it's something that like I feel like you can activate that mission, that purpose anywhere you are. You can walk into a room. You can walk into Walmart with that purpose and shine. You can walk into a business meeting, a corporate executive business meeting, and activate that purpose. You can be sitting in your pajamas in your living room and activate that purpose. So that's a good one.
It's not something that that I can turn on and off. It's
Mm.
something that it's just, I am.
Mm.
And so I am.
Mm. So yeah, can you tell me more about sort of you work with all of these different modalities, and I've
Mhm.
heard of all of them. Some of them I know more deeply than others, but can you speak a little bit to some of those modalities that you work with and what you love about them?
Sure. Well, I'll start with neuro-linguistic programming, which is what most people probably know or are more familiar with. I really like it because it teaches you to watch people, and just from watching people, I think as individuals we don't understand that when I'm speaking to you right now, only 7% of what I'm communicating is my language. The rest is 93% is my tone, my movement, and it all communicates something to you. Even the direction that my eyes float can tell you something. So I love neuro-linguistic programming because it takes you there. It also uses timelines, and it has what I call emotional resilience tools that can reset somebody's emotions or emotional intelligence within just 90 seconds. Theta healing is very much like neuro-linguistic programming in the fact that it uses a timeline. But in that one, I like to use theta healing with the meditators, because we both go into a theta state and we pull the energy from above down through our bodies, but I push my energy into them and then go through the timeline. It's kind of a similar thing. And I'm giving kind of a quick overview and simplifying it, but in that, it works the same way as neuro-linguistic programming. If we're trying to change a trait or a behavior, you can find where it first started through the timeline, clear it out, and replace it with a new behavior. And so that's really effective, and that's more energy work included. And then eye movement integration I use with trauma and anxiety, because what it does, what most people don't understand is when we go through trauma, we hold it fragmented in our brains. And so your left cortex and your right cortex argue over the healing process of the brain. What eye movement integration does is it brings your left and right cortex together to be in agreement. And now the healing can begin. And it's known as the inner healer. So I like to use all three of those first to remove the imprint of the ailment. And I still start putting the new behavior in, but what PSYCH-K does and why I like to use it last is because it brings the client into a whole brain state on the new belief. It doesn't even deal with the old belief. It only replaces the old belief with your new balance or your new belief system by crossing your right cortex with your left cortex, bringing you into a whole brain state. And so I always use it as at the end, because I call it the double sealer. So with theta healing, and eye movement integration, you bring them in and you erase it and you start putting in the new belief, but with PSYCH-K, you just kind of seal it down. So that's why I like using all of those together.
Amazing. And you mentioned that that you tell clients like stop dating now, wait until after you're done with this, the work that we're doing together, because then you'll attract something different. I love that.
Mhm.
Um, can you tell like some sort of like give us sort of a picture or a story of somebody that has gone through a transformational journey with you and how that shifted them and the sorts of things that they attracted in their lives?
I can give you a couple. I have a really good one about a woman who had come to me and she said, I need to study with you. I said, great. But it's going to take 8 times. I pretty much know how long it's going to take with whoever comes in front of me. And I said to her, 8 times, but you can't date while you're here. Well, sure enough, she tried after the 5th time. And when she came to me for her 6th appointment, she goes, you know what? You were so right. And she explained, she goes, it was just a disaster. And sure enough, after she finished the 8 times with me and had done the work that she had done, she met 2 months later, she met the love of her life, and she's still with him today. Another client I have, and what people don't understand is when you start expanding your consciousness and start changing your belief system and start going into new behaviors, you're changing your DNA. Think about that. You're literally changing your DNA, because this is the thing. Your belief systems have energy to them. So that energy goes into your cells. I mean, it's been confirmed that the biochemical effects of the brain's functioning shows that your very cells are affected by your thoughts. So that means your thoughts have energy. So when we're starting to change our behavior, we're changing our DNA. When you're changing your DNA, your children have a portion of your DNA, or they're in your holographic field. They're also in your morphic field. They're in your quantum field. So they can't help but be changed by your new belief system. And I had a wonderful client in Houston who was a CEO, and she had come to me for phobias and a bunch of different things that she had going on. And we worked through those. And I had explained this process that this could affect her children. Well, after several times with me, she said, I can't wait to tell you this story, because you were right. It does affect my son. My son has been so difficult. He's 11 years old. And she went on to say that he wanted to try out for the baseball team because all his friends were trying out, but he didn't think he was going to make it, even though he was a better player than his friends. So instead, he went to the track team. His friends went to the baseball team. They all made the team. And now he was on the track team. She said, normally, he would have been so angry and he would have been stomping his feet and all of this. But she said, instead, he came and said, well, lesson well learned. I now know I'm always going to try out for what I really want. And this was a process of something that she went through. And so when she changed it in her, she changed it in him.
That's amazing. At what age does that go to? I mean, like you said, you have like grown daughters. If you change your DNA now, you have a new belief system that up levels you tremendously. Is that going to have an impact on your 33-year-old daughter?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
It can't help. It can't help, because they're connected with you. Not only that, but they're dealing with you. And what people don't understand is they think that it's going to be like, oh, it's like a beacon. Everybody's going to see it. It is so subtle when you make these changes. It's kind of like if you're always fearful, let's say you're a person that's always fearful of 99.9% of everything that's not going to happen. And we change it to safety, security, and confidence, right? So now you have situations that come in front of you, and you're watching as normally you would have been fear-based. And now it's safety. Your response is more safety, security, and confidence. And it's almost like you watch things in slow motion. Wait, I would have done this, but I'm this. And when you do that, it's so subtle. But as time goes on, you notice it more and more in every circumstance you have. And so for your children, it will be a subtle thing, but you'll start noticing in them. And I have noticed changes in my own adult children. And I've done probably 200 PSYCH-K balances on myself.
Does it work in the other direction too? So like, for instance, with my mother, I was raised in a Southern Baptist, Southern Missouri town, and my mom was pretty Christian. She was a cool kind of, had a hippie background, but she was, we were immersed in this community. And I remember as I grew up, I was like, this doesn't work for me. I'm not into this whole health thing. At some point, in my 20s, I discovered Eckhart Tolle, and I just had these like epiphanal moments in life where, like awakenings, right? And every single time I went through an awakening, my mom came with me. And so I don't know, does that mean that this sort of DNA shift happens in that direction too? That with
it can. I notice it more with children, like especially if you have young children, and I notice it more with children than I do with parents, because it can go either way with parents. Either parents are going to join you or they're not.
Yeah.
And I find when people are really steep in religion, because religion has so many things that are caught up in it as belief systems, right? And a lot of religion is fear-based. Um, I think that it can go either way. It depends on how hard they are.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself. I come from 8 generations of ministers.
Mm,
Um, and I had to deprogram a lot. And my family is very steeped in that. And it's not that I respect every religion that's out there. I think there's validity in everything that's out there. But I can't say that any one is the end all. I'm open to it all. But when you have a family that's very steeped in it, sometimes it's tougher.
mm.
That's what I can say to that. Children are, I find that when the parent starts changing their DNA, it's almost faster for children,
Yeah.
in particular, young children.
Yeah. I mean, they say that your child is really sort of enmeshed in your auric field until age 7. That's what I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah.
I don't know.
I would push it to about 8, but
Nice.
yes,
Then I've got another year with my kiddo.
yeah. I would push it to about 8 that they're really affected. But even after that, like I said, um, my children were very affected by the changes I started to make.
So, I mean, I find all of this super fascinating as a mom and as a daughter and just as a citizen of the world. And on the more sort of macro, this podcast is really sort of about how to embody a new paradigm, the new earth in a time when the old paradigm, the toxic patriarchy, a lot of
Mhm,
unconsciousness is crumbling. And so when I hear you talk about the potential for real DNA upgrades
mhm,
that are happening amongst individuals that you work with, and that those DNA upgrades are passable, to the people around you, and especially to our children, that's super exciting to me. That's always an exciting conversation for me because it activates my optimism. I just want to hear from you, like, when you take this more macro level, how do you feel this work that you're doing impacts the world? Do you feel like there are people increasingly sort of changing their DNA for the better?
well, I do, because I feel that um, if one person decides to change their DNA, like the woman in Houston, that affects everybody she comes into contact with. It's not just her children, it's her husband, it's everyone she comes into contact with. Now, we all were given free will, right? So I will say this, it depends on who's accepting it, but she's still, by her higher level of consciousness, by evolving, she can't help but touch everyone around her. And a lot of them will choose to evolve too. And there will be some that don't choose to go that route. But the point is that she is choosing to touch other people with her evolution. And I'm not saying that it's bad if you stay, if you want to not expand. I'm saying that those who are choosing to go that level in consciousness, changing their DNA, moving along, they can't help but affect other people.
So I don't know that I have a whole lot of skeptics listening, but maybe I do. I tend to be a skeptic in the sense that, and I know that that word kind of gets a bad rap, but in the sense that I question everything. Like, I'm
Mhm.
always asking questions because I really want to understand every nook and cranny. Um, so for those that have that same sort of disposition, and maybe think about a more typical perspective of what DNA is, like the double helix DNA that I learned about in biology class. Like, how would you explain to us how we're impacting our actual so-called double helix DNA that we thought for so many years growing up was a sort of static thing.
Well, let me just say this. Everything's energy.
Yeah.
Einstein said everything's energy and that's all there is to it, right? Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you can't help but bring it to you. So our cells, our DNA, have energy in it. And I would take it, I take it a step further because I believe that our junk DNA is really our light body. I truly believe that's I'm doing some work with somebody on that, and we both truly believe that our junk DNA is part of our light body. So all of it has energy, so it can't help but be affected by your consciousness, your subconscious, your conscious mind, and even your superconscious. So I would say to anybody who's skeptical, try it. Try changing something that isn't working for you. Try changing a behavior, or even if it's small, try changing that vibration of that and watch what happens, because it's going to change the cells in your body without a doubt.
Well, and I think one of the most effective tweaks that we can make that has a huge impact on our vibration, probably on our DNA, is to reframe every moment into gratitude as much as possible. So every single moment, even the ones that are really tough, where it's, there's a thunderstorm outside, it's pouring down rain, I got drenched on my way to the car, like all the everything's going so-called wrong throughout the day. How can I then shift my perspective, instead of being like, oh my God, all this fucked up shit's happening to me all day long and I can't get a break, and instead being like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you for the opportunity to, live in this life and to experience the elements. And oh my God, all this abundant rain is nourishing the plants around me. And we've been in a drought for so long. It's wonderful. And now I get to clear my schedule because I can't make my meetings. And so I actually have some time to like breathe and meditate,
That's
and
awesome. It's true. It's true. I actually give my clients, I call when we have negative talk, inner self-talk, I call them automatic negative talk, or ants. And I always say, all you have to do is say, isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me right now. Just
yeah,
say that every time.
what?
Train yourself to say that.
Magic.
It's magic. It is magic. And my clients say that using that phrase, and I've been using that for well over a year now. It is magic. And they said, one woman said, I'm doing it in my sleep. I'm doing it while I dream. All of a sudden this comes into my head and I'm like, whoa, wait, I'm saying that while she's kind of in dream state. So it can change your vibration just like that.
Can you say it one more time?
Isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me right now.
Mm. So my equivalent of that is miracles are unfolding.
Oh, I like that too. That's good.
And one of my more recent examples of it was on my flight to Maui for the first time back in June. My first flight was delayed, and that meant that the rest of my 24-hour journey was going to get all messed up, right? In theory. So I'm at the airport in Springfield, Missouri, and my first flight's delayed by an hour and a half, which is how long my layover is supposed to be in Atlanta. And I'm like, all right, I should just really just text everyone and tell them I'm going to be a day late. My whole life is fucked. And instead of doing that, which is, part of an old program I have, instead of doing that, I was like, oh wait, miracles are unfolding that I don't even know about. How exciting. And so I get to Atlanta, I get a notification from Delta on my phone that says, we've rerouted you, get to this other gate, you're boarding right now. I get there, and not only have I been rerouted direct instead of going, from Springfield to Atlanta to Seattle to Maui, instead I'm going on a direct flight from that layover to Hawaii and I got bumped to first class. And it was a free flight because of miles. So I got bumped to first class, like for the first time ever. And I was like, wow, this whole miracles are unfolding that I don't even know about thing is the most magical thing in the world.
Mhm.
So I just need to remember to do it more often. I might need to get it tattooed on my forehead.
Yeah, I truly believe when we say these things, because that's beautiful, because we do create our own vibration to create our own miracles coming to us, and we just don't realize that. I often think if I'm going to be late, that there's a reason. If I'm in the car and there's some traffic or whatever, or I get a late start or whatever, and I always think that okay, this is for a reason. This is meant to be this way. I'm just flowing with it. I'm just going to flow because it's better for me.
Love it. Yeah. Life can be pretty miraculous. And I feel like that the more we can take that perspective, that certainly shifts the vibration,
Mhm.
certainly shifts us at a cellular level, which then shifts us at a DNA level, which then informs the timeline that we're on and the future
Yes.
that we possibly can be on, which then if enough people, if we have even a small percentage, but particularly if we have a critical mass of individuals who are all doing that reframe,
Yes.
simultaneously over and over again, then we can collectively get on a really cool timeline of miracles unfolding. Because it's going to take a miracle, really, in this current world for us to get through this tight moment. But I believe in that.
I do too. I wholeheartedly believe. I have some people that are hesitant. Like, so I have a client right now who their consciousness of what we're talking about and changing, they're constantly expanding and changing their vibration and going on, but their partner is not. And it will cause a rift. And this is what I would say to the audience about that. Years ago, I studied with a paranormal healer, and he asked me what I wish for. And of course, what I wish for is to have cosmic consciousness. Because to me, having cosmic consciousness would mean, whoa, you're just there, you're just now, right? It's just whoa. And I knew never to give my wish away. So I'm like sitting there, and it's almost like the angels are choking me not to say my wish. And he asked me 3 times. And he said to me, what you wish for? I never told him, but he said, but I knew he knew. And he said, what you wish for, are you willing to leave your children behind? At the time, I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. I was like, leave my children behind? I'm all they got. Like, I'm a single parent. I'm not leaving them. And later, as I studied more, I understood what he was saying. He was saying from a consciousness level, am I willing to leave them behind? Am I willing to take that step into a level of consciousness that they may not be choosing at this time? Because I want to say this, there is no right or wrong. It's your free will to choose how you wish to expand or whether you wish to stay where you are. There's no right or wrong. But I understood what he was saying then at that time. And I was like, yes, I'm going. I'm taking that route because I want to get as much cosmic consciousness as I can. I want to get as close to that as I can. And, I'm fortunate that my children all went with me, but my birth family did not. So as I've made my shift, and I'm just letting people know that, as I've made my shift, because we touched on religion before, as I made my shift in what I wanted, I basically left my birth family, or my birth family pretty much left me because of the way I live. I'm too optimistic. I'm too accepting of everybody, no matter what your faith is. And so it caused a difference. So I would say that to people is just understand that, there will be some people who, with your higher vibration, can't resonate with you. It's kind of like why I say to somebody, don't date. If you're dating, stop dating until you're finished, because you're not going to attract the same, or you're going to be clashing with someone. So it's
Yeah.
something for people to think about. And it's just like my client whose wife isn't making the transition like he's making it, my heart goes out to him, because it must be very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, I sometimes I too am a single mom. And I I definitely sometimes am really grateful that I haven't met partners, long-term partners in previous iterations of myself. When I longed so much for partnership, like, oh, I really wish I had that. And then, today I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't attract anybody at that moment,
Mhm.
because I've grown so much since then.
Mhm.
And and that growth will continue, so, and
Mhm.
then it just becomes really important to, if one is going to meet somebody that's a long-term partner potential, to find somebody who is on that growth path, who also wants
Yes.
cosmic consciousness. I mean, that's,
Yes.
like on the dating app questionnaire,
Yeah.
are you are you on board for cosmic consciousness?
Yeah, that's an awesome one. Yes. I have to say, I would, anybody who's out there who's filling out the form, put that down if that's what you want, because you'll attract it. And if that's your path, that's your path.
Hmm.
Um, and I do say that that's why some people, when people haven't met somebody right yet, it's because they're constantly, you know, going on this consciousness path that they haven't stopped yet. So they haven't met it, right? They keep going. So that's why you're not meeting, but you will find somebody who's going, with you, or maybe somebody that's a tiny bit ahead. And
Right, which is even
you're,
better to
which
me.
is to me, that's even better too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I love that. So, can you tell us what you're doing in the world more specifically, like what offerings you've got, how you work with people, how you show up in the world professionally, and how people can find you?
Well, there's several different things I do for corporate, for small corporate groups. I do come in and I do a workshop so that they understand, they can recognize their programming. They understand why it's important for them to recognize the programming of those around you, because you can have the emotional intelligence to create the strategy to work together. And I go through the process to make them see what's working, what's not. The team decides on different balances or goals that they want to achieve. And then I'll take each one of them separate, because PSYCH-K is something that I do privately. It's separate, because for one person, like for instance, if you want an abundance, ultimate abundance, well, you have to have an abundant mindset to have ultimate abundance. So it might take 2 or 3 balances to get you to where your consciousness says, because I can test your subconscious, where your subconscious and conscious mind says, yes, I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with that. And then it's in. So for corporate groups, I work that way. I do work with people individually, and I have an immersion package where they immerse themselves in it. And I even go through what's called a life bonding mode, where I take them from the time they're born, so the pain of being birthed, to the time they die, so they can eliminate all the fear. They erase all that fear. I go through 12 different points in their body, like our self-belief is right here, or self-worth. And there's different statements, and I can see if they're out of alignment. It's almost like having your chakras out of alignment. So I can put those back into alignment. And there's core beliefs. There's 12 core beliefs that we have too. And once these are in, they don't come out. But I go through a process, and with individuals, it's like, peeling it back. So that's kind of when they immerse themselves into a program. And that's about 10 sessions. And when they come out of the 10 sessions, that's what they get. They will they will reprogram whatever they want to reprogram, what they want to focus on, and even parts that they don't, because they may not know. Oh, somebody can tell me they have great self-worth, and I can test and say, I think we need to put that in, so that's a complete package. So it's just in how someone wants to work and what they want to work on. But I've had people I had one woman come to me for abundance issues with her company. And we had one session. We worked only because she goes, I have love. I have this, I have that. She went down her list. So we did abundance and we did one session, and I hadn't heard from her in a month. And that's how I keep my metrics. I always ask my clients to write me. And I ended up writing her, and she says, oh, I'm so sorry. I have had the most abundant month. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been so busy. So it just depends on where the person's at and what they want to work on.
Beautiful. So how do people start with you?
So they can go to www.janetelaine.schmidt.com, and that's my website. And they can go from there. They can check out it gives a description of every technique that I've used. It has description of different packages that they can go in. And I'll say this, anybody who's listening to your podcast can have 50% off of a session.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
y'all, whenever you want to go to JanetElaineSchmidt.com, which we'll put in the show notes, so that should be easy to find for y'all, and book a session. You just mentioned to Janet that you heard it here first, and you get 50% off. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's a
On
pleasure.
behalf of myself and all my listeners, thank you so much for that beautiful gift, and
You're
for the
welcome.
gift of your presence on this podcast and on the planet.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Aw, thanks. And thank you all for listening. Have a beautiful rest of your day.